Hoyoverse just revealed everything, and I mean everything that was rumored for 2.5. We've got multiplayer gameplay confirmed. We've got standard banner character buffs confirmed. We've got an admission that the story is kinda ass, and they're gonna fix it, confirmed. Among a bunch of other stuff. Those are just like the big ones for me, but also the Suibian temple is getting a fix, thank the Lord. Let's get into it. Okay, so point number one for me is multiplayer gameplay is back and better than ever. It's a weird way to say that considering it was only available in closed betas before. But anyway, in the multiplayer mode, players in the team can now jointly unleash their iconic chain attacks together. So for the avoidance of any doubt, this is not a bang boo multiplayer mode. This is going to be a multiplayer mode where you play your characters with your friends. Oh my god, yes. I think there's going to be a lot of players who are really interested in this. I think there'll be some players who probably aren't as interested, but it does also mention here additional exciting mechanics will be added, making the multiplayer experience something to look forward to. I think there's going to be quite a few kit changes required in order to make certain characters work in multiplayer mode. Could you imagine EX specialing on Astra and then just AFKing for the rest of the fight? That's probably not going to happen. They're going to have to rework some of the character kits so that you can use your favorite characters in the multiplayer gameplay mode. They're also going to have to probably rework the way, like stun and chain attacks work, because players in the team can now jointly unleash their iconic chain attacks together. I'm guessing what this means is maybe you stun the enemy and you all chain attack at the same time, or some crazy stuff like that, so you're not just watching each other. Honestly, I kind of can't wait to see how it works out. And just again, to be clear, this is all of the stuff that is supposedly coming in 2.5. So yeah, multiplayer gameplay, let's go. The next thing I want to talk about specifically is I do want to talk about the story content and the changes that they are looking to make to it. They're addressing the fact that the story content hasn't been as good recently. I think in season 1 up to 1.4, Zenless Zone Zero really felt like it was hitting its stride. And then since then, it's been something that I feel like I've been drifting away from, even as a content creator who covers the game, especially since season 2 started. But anyway, they're directly addressing this. Lacking direction or aim, we got you, and then narrative structure feels familiar. Characters popping up out of nowhere, we've heard you loud and clear. Very, very cool. I also think as well that this is something specifically that I want to call out. Get to know new friends early. Yes, please. I think part of what made season 1 so exciting, especially up till that 1.4 moment, is that we had the hype for the characters building from 1.0. Even if you weren't involved in closed betas and stuff like that, which I wasn't. I was a player, I came in on day 1 and I loved the game. I loved the early cutscenes that featured some of Section 6. And then I was really excited when we actually got to hang out with them more in game, because what we'd already seen of them looked so cool. And I think they're starting to do that, and they're starting to realize that with future upcoming characters. And it says here, since version 1.6, we've been focusing on long-term character development and integration with special attention to key characters' highlight moments. For example, in version 2.4, Ye Xunguang will gradually get acquainted with the proxies, revealing untold stories. I'm really hopeful, as it means it's not just for Ye Xunguang, but also for other key characters in the future, and we'll get to know them a little bit earlier so that we can make a more informed decision on who we want to pull for based on the characters before we even get there. Because a lot of the time at the moment, it feels like we see the drip marketing for characters and we've never even seen them before. And we're just like, oh, well, I guess we're just making the decision entirely based on the design because there's not really anything else to go on. And I really want to be in a position again where we kind of build up to a character who comes out and have that second Miyabi moment, the second coming of Miyabi. Honestly, I don't think that'll ever happen because she was built up a lot before the game had even come out. But the ethos of building up to a big character like that should be something that happens. And I'll be honest, for Yixuan, who was our other Void Hunter level agent, that never happened. But anyway, there's a lot more to talk about, but before we do, this is your reminder you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing is great to support creators like me on YouTube. You can also drop me a follow over on Twitch, and you can join the Discord where you can come and yap about all this stuff. It's a good fun time. So the other things that we want to talk about here, there are going to be new shops added. So the 404 Era Live House, Antique Shop Buyan, and Hotpot Restaurant will open before Season 2 ends. There is going to be updated exploration and sandbox exploration specifically. If I'm totally honest, I do think that some of the exploration elements that have been added since season 2 kind of felt a little bit like they were trying to fill a hole that's been left by TV mode, but with a little bit more time to cook and also giving us, the option of like new ways of getting around. I just really hope it's not tied to Yi Xun-Guang's abilities. If it says something like this, you don't have to pull her in order to benefit from her ability to get around. That would kind of suck, but other than that, it would be kind of interesting to have a new way to explore and also more stuff to do. Exploration side quests, new collectibles. It's an immersion level upgrade. Okay, sure. I'm down to try it. And there's a couple of other things we need to talk about as well. The big one being power-ups for standard characters. Worried about standard character power levels? Combat interaction is too simple. Version 2.5 bring its enhanced optimization. This is essentially alluding to the idea that they're going to power up standard characters, so give you ways to power up your standard characters either through the potential activation that they've done for Soldier Zero Ambi and for Ellen, or there might be something else as well, and this is all rumored at the moment as to whether or not that actually does shake out to be true, or if they stick with just the potential activation remains to be seen. That's all up in the air. But I think the idea and the ethos behind the idea of bringing standard characters up to still being valid options for endgame content is fantastic, particularly some of the characters who maybe feel a little bit more lackluster nowadays. I'd argue that someone like Lycan is probably in a pretty fine spot. In fact, he does tend to find a spot on quite a few meta teams, so to speak. But then you think about other characters like Grace, characters like Soldier 11, who have really fallen out of favor in terms of usage, and it would be really great to bring characters like that back to the forefront, or at the very least bring them up to a level where they feel more like at least somewhat better than an A rank, because honestly, we have Manito, and yeah, who's using Soldier 11 anymore? And there is some additional stuff here around we're always welcoming new friends by helping newcomers progress faster through the early game and making the game more accessible, which means that for the 2.5 soft relaunch, if that's what this ends up being, I do think that what this means is it means that there's probably going to be a way to fast forward so that you can access the newer content faster. It might be that you end up skipping a chunk of season 1 story. My thoughts on this might be that you do some of the story, but then you skip some of the story. So maybe you go 1.0 to 1.4, and then you do 2.0 to 2.5. So you would skip like a middle chunk of story that maybe is less relevant. You could probably also skip some of the 2.1, 2.2 story, and maybe 2.3 as well, depending on what ends up happening in 2.5. So they might end up just letting you skip entire chapters, depending on how overarching story relevant things are. I think that sounds pretty cool. And then lastly, this thing is something that I would really like. I don't know if a lot of players feel this way, but it always feels like I'm missing out by not doing the Suibian temple stuff. But honestly, it's so dry. It does feel like a little bit of a waste of time. I kind of wish that there was either A, way more to it, or B, way less to it. It's kind of just not very fun overall. But the fact that you're basically just going to have a one-click AFK feature that you can press and then just not worry about it anymore, and it's going to continue to accrue a smaller amount probably, but you're still going to get some of those Omni coins and some of the whatever the other things are called. But all in all, I think that this is absolutely fantastic for the future of Zenless Zone Zero. Zenless Zone Zero, the only gacha game that gets a soft relaunch twice a year. But yeah, I'll leave the post link down below so you can go through and have a look at it for yourself. I guess there's still a tiny little part of me though that thinks that 2.4 is hopefully gonna build a little bit of hype for 2.5. Yes, I'm excited for the building of the hype for 2.5. Yes, of course I am. However, I feel a little bit dead if they're putting all of this development into 2.5. So just to set some expectations, that 2.4 may not feel super exciting, but honestly, considering that we've got all of this in the works, I'm okay with it. Take your time, guys. Take your time. All right, let them cook. That's about enough out of me. As always, remember to like and subscribe, button, average luck on all your pulls, pour responsibly, stay weird. Bye, 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 bye.